In this video, I'm going to talk about how to improve as a chess beginner from beginner all the way up into intermediate. We're going to cover the very common mistake that beginners are making. And you're going to notice that all of the beginners are making the exact same mistake, which kind of like prevents them from improving from beginner to intermediate at chess. My name is Alon. I help chess players who are adults online to improve at chess. Let me show you this very quickly. So let's say for a moment that in this position that we have, yes, we are losing right now. There is an advantage for white. You can see it from the bar, which goes in his favor. But I still want to bring this example because it's still helpful to understand. Now I want you to ask, what move would you do if you're black in this position? You've just got checked, and you obviously need to respond to this. Beginners do not miss to give checks, obviously. And so hopefully you've paused to actually look for what you need to do. The move that black makes in this example, and again this video is for beginners in chess, is bishop to d7. Blunder is a mate in one, and I want you to actually take a look into what the mate in one is. And so hopefully you've found this mate in one. Again, this video is for beginners. The move is knight to d6. This is a mate because you cannot flee with the king anywhere. Instead of this, if black would have made the move bishop to d7 and thought, wait, what could my opponent do? And he would have been sitting there for like 3 or 4 more seconds. He would have found that after this, and so he would have made the move king to f7. And now you're still in a major disadvantage, but you can still somewhat fight for winning this game. And so that is a problem that beginners have. They miss very simple blunders like this that can happen. And so if you want to improve anywhere to literally any level, we have to first of all stop these blunders. Intermediates and advanced players, they may sometimes make blunders like this, but they are certainly a lot less common and also a lot less having an effect over their games because of that. I'm pretty sure that for most beginners that are watching this, you need to focus on 2 things. First of all, and that is the main thing to focus on, is tactics, because if we practice tactics, we solve this. And I'm going to show you another way to solve this. And the second thing is opening principles, but that is in very, very simple terms, the problems. Beginners, they miss very simple captures and tactics like this. So for example, here, if I'm doing this, now I'm pretty much suffering the consequence because I was like, oh, I've made the move, but then I've seen the blunder. It needs to be the other way around, where you think about a move, I think about moving the bishop to d7, but then I see, oh, if I make the move bishop to 7, my opponent can move his knight to d6, and then I would be in big trouble, and it would be a checkmate. And so that's the way it's supposed to be. Let's now take a look into another example, and I'm going to show you this in its form again. All right, let me just move the position. All right, so here is our next position. Again, white is winning in this example. He've made the move rook a to b8, which is absolutely fine for you. You are up 4 points of material. Okay, you're basically winning against your opponent. White have made the move bishop to d5, moves the bishop back. Black does knight takes on g4, taking the pawn. Very nice, because, well, it was a free pawn to take. What move do you think about in this position? And so what a lot of people may think is, okay, I have a threat that can be placed over my knight here on h6. I just want to move the knight away so that I wouldn't need to deal with it later. And from there, I could probably move to attacking in the center. And you're probably thinking about things like this. The problem is that white was too uncautious in here. You have made the move bishop to e3. And I want you to think right now about the sequence of moves that black is going to do that will end up winning him something. But if you see this bishop, it's not actually defended by anything. If you take with the knight here, the pawn is going to take, the bishop is going to take, and now what happens is you're having a fork on this knight. I'll just paint it in another color with this knight and this king. You're having a fork against 2 pieces, meaning that you were thinking, okay, I'm going to probably develop a piece, but this doesn't work here. Plus, there's this problem that you should be very, very wary of. rook to b2, but this is for other times. Now here's the thing. If you're going to make a blunder, you need to understand that your opponent is very likely to actually use this. And you need to use it when your opponent makes a blunder. You have every right to do this, to just absolutely capitalize on the opportunity that was given to you. So black does bishop to e3. Now white does the blunder bishop to e3. Now black capitalizes on it. Knight takes on e2. Pawn takes on f3. Bishop to e3 now. So there are a few main ways that we can solve problems like this. You see, like here it was a simple blunder that made white from a completely winning position to actually now somewhat losing because black is up material. At this point he has a +1 pawn and there's a threat here. Now it becomes bad for black. So how do we prevent ourselves from getting into these problems? So you're probably in this position where you are making a move, but then you realize this is a blunder. What I think happened is that black made the move bishop to d7 and immediately then realized that this is a blunder, right? Even without him like just doing the move knight to d6. He realized that, and then he have got the problem in his face. And so there are a few things that we can do. We obviously want to reverse this process to a point where you think, I'm going to make this move. What could be the reaction of my opponent? If black would have made this sort of like thinking in here, in this exact position, it probably would still be playable. Maybe not winning, but he could still somewhat give a fight. And I think it's probably something very similar here, where white have made the move, immediately then realized that this is a blunder, and then he got this problem in his face. Okay, knight takes e3, pawn here, and bishop here to fork both of them. So first thing that we want to do, and you can even start immediately after this video, is to do a lot, and I truly mean a lot of puzzles. We need to train something which is called pattern recognition in tactics. And I'm saying this for the people who are not still aware of this. Once the knight takes here, the pawn takes, and the bishop takes, this sort of thing is very common, where one piece aims at two different pieces. That is called a fork. And this is a tactic that you need to be training every day in order to improve at the game. Okay, puzzles, they are the way to train this. If you're going to chess.com or Lichess, both of them have it, when you can just go and do puzzles. And to train this as much as you possibly can, it won't guarantee that you wouldn't blunder. The next way would guarantee to stop it. But this is a very simple way to hold them. The second way comes from asking yourself two questions before every move. We need to ask a few things. So first of all, what is my opponent threatening? This is the first question. The second one is, what is the downside of my last opponent's move? And the third one is, what can my opponent do after I make the move that I want? So if I want to make the move bishop to e3, I think beforehand, what is my opponent threatening? He doesn't threaten much in this example, besides maybe moving his pawn soon here or here, but I do not see anything in addition to this that he can threat, right? In this example. What are the downsides of my opponent's last move? He moves a piece which is already developed. Every move in chess has one downside. Even the opening move of e4 has his own downsides. But it's just something you may need to ask, because you may capitalize on a future mistake that your opponent may make. In here, there's no immediate downside that we can actually use for our advantage. But still, using the same piece twice can be sometimes a problem. Even if it's an endgame, by the way. So that's the second thing. And the third thing, so we are thinking now about the move bishop to e3. What could our opponent do after we make the move? And if you do this, if you ask, what could my opponent do after I make a certain move, and you add into it all the puzzle exercises of pattern recognition, it would be very hard for you not to understand that he could, after you move here, and he takes, and you take with a pawn, that there is a fork, plus there is then a threat on this pawn, on b2. Okay, so this part basically takes these two ideas and combines them together. Pretty much the same thing could happen also in the last position. If we made a lot of pattern recognition, and before we made the move, we would ask, What is the downside of the move bishop to b5? We would realize very simply that yes, we're developing a piece, but in here, soon I could very easily maybe to threaten it to go away or something like this. Now, second thing, what is my opponent threatening? So first of all, there is an obvious threat on the king. Okay, the bishop checks the king on e8. So we need to do something about this. If I make my move, the move that I want, bishop to d7, and it will take you a few seconds to guess what your opponent could do. So if I make the move bishop to d7, what could my opponent possibly do? If I see this, I think, wait, my opponent could easily just checkmate me because, well, there's a mate here. That is a clear checkmate. I should not do this move. He could just checkmate. So you're discarding this move from your mind completely, and you're thinking, okay, I should probably do another move like king to f7. In here, you're still not winning, okay? You're still in a disadvantage, but you're not completely losing the game in comparison to the blunder that he has made. So let's conclude this video. What have we talked about so far? So first of all, we need to do a lot of puzzles to solve the blunder errors that we have to get a sort of like a pattern recognition for all the simple tactics that may happen. You may not get extremely good at tactics because this needs a lot of practice, but this is a very long-term and very effective thing to do in the long run of let's say a few weeks or even months. This is very useful. The second thing that we want is to create the structure to our thinking process. So we ask before every move, first, what is the downside of the move that my opponent have made? The second thing is, what is my opponent threatening? What could my opponent do after this? Could he check? Could he attack? Could he make any threats like this? You probably already heard the term checks, captures, and threats beforehand. And we just stop for a moment and think, what is the downside of bishop to d7? It would be very hard not to recognize a move like knight to d6, because you simply immediately understand that it is a blunder because of that. I flipped the board that you could see it as black. Black just stops for a moment and asks, what is the downside of the move bishop to e3? And then he realizes that, oh, this loses due to a tactic. So after I takes, I can take here with my own bishop and to attack also this knight and king. And so there's a fork here, right? This is what the player had done to just win back the piece that you've just won. So he does knight here, pawn takes, and bishop takes, because he just asked the right question. Right? And so we needed to instill a process to our thinking system that is going to allow us to win against beginner opponents. That is the main thing that I can give you from my own experience as well, if you're just starting to play the game, is to notice the times where your opponents are making these mistakes, because in almost every game they are making these blunders these days. And you can capitalize on them very easily, and that is very likely to actually increase your elo from a very low rating, even from 600 to already like 1200. I actually leveled up from 700 to 1300 doing these basic things. And if you want to improve at chess from beginner to any level, it needs to be eliminated first before everything else. Opening principles do not help if you are making a mate in one blunder. A positional understanding doesn't help if you're missing a simple take or if you're blundering a piece. None of these things are going to help any beginner improve unless you're first of all fixing this problem. And so that is the thing that I can tell you as a beginner. I leveled up again from 700 to 1300, 1400, like somewhere at this approximate range, simply by just stopping this problem. Alright, so if you have any questions, leave them below. I will do my best to answer. There is more things to it, but this is the main thing that beginners need to focus on. And so if you have any questions, leave them below, and I will do my best to answer all of them. And if you want, then there's the first link in the description, and I can take you from beginner online all the way into online 1500 elo myself. My name is Zalon, and I teach adult players how to play chess online, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.